The RX 6500 XT launched in January to what was honestly a pretty poor reception. This was a very cut down card in terms of features and, by extension, usability. People were also not happy about the price. Now, this card's MSRP is $199.99, which is what I paid for it. At the time of this card's launch, finding it for that price was nearly impossible, and you were much more likely to find it available for between $350 to $400. Because of that, this card was essentially reviewed as a $400 card, and I agree. Anybody willing to buy this card for $400 is either high or extremely desperate. And desperate is what people were and are not currently anymore. Because if you're living under a rock, the GPU shortage is just about over. Prices are returning to normal, and they are just about at normal. So how does this GPU currently stack up as a $199.99 GPU? Let's take a look. What do you get for your $200? So let's talk about features first, then gaming performance, and we'll compare it to other graphics cards that you can get for the $200 price point. So as far as features go, this is where AMD really stripped the card down to get to that price tag. All you get is a single DisplayPort 1.4a and a single HDMI 2.1. So the monitor will properly connect to any 4K 144Hz panel, but nobody in their right mind is going to be doing that. The HDMI, and I'm not sure why, but I wasn't able to adapt it to DisplayPort at all, and all I get is a blue screen. And I was looking around on forums. This seems to be a common issue with this card. So that sucks. And there's no special onboard encoders or shadow play equivalent software for video recording and streaming. So that also sucks. Or at least it wouldn't suck so much if every time I opened OBS to try and record software or games or whatever with this card, the performance would just tank. And no, I don't have any hardware encoding enabled in Shadow or in OBS. It's all supposed to go directly off of the CPU, nothing to do with the GPU, and it just tanks performance, so that sucks. But it does have a few things going for it, like an extremely low power requirement being a single 6-pin PCI Express connector. So this card only draws between 60 and 80 watts at peak usage. It's just over the threshold of being able to run purely off the PCI Express connector. This card also has RT cores, which is neat, I guess, but since AMD doesn't have anything to compete with DLSS or anything in general that'll use those ray tracing cores, and the card itself isn't powerful enough to do ray tracing, it's pointless. It's pointless. It's useless. AMD just threw ray tracing on there and stripped the rest of the card to meet a price point. So they put a feature you can't use and took the features you can use away just to keep the one you can't use in there. It's stupid. But moving on from that, the card also does have PCI Express Gen 4 support, which is nice, but it's also not nice because it's only a by 4 electrically slot. So it's it's 16 lanes, but electrically it's only 4. So that means if you put it in an older system that uses Gen 3, you're going to be losing performance. And I think everybody's done testing on that, and that's widely known now. But at least this card supports DX12. So since the feature set is botched in game, is just dead, how did it do in games? Well, I paired this card with my main rig containing an i7 12700K and 32 gigs of DDR5 5600. I just wanted to see what the card could do if, best case scenario, there's nothing else going on. Just the card going fast. Well, I couldn't get RDR2 to load at all, so I threw the card into another system, still couldn't get it to load. So, okay, on to the next game. Cyberpunk 2077 ran alright at the default ultra settings at 1080p. I was able to get about 26 FPS on average with a max of 40 and a min of 7, so just dial back the settings a little bit and it's playable. I tried to use ray tracing in this game and it was awful. Just don't. Lighter titles like Fortnite run fine even up to 1440p. At the default ultra settings, I was able to get 55 FPS average at 1440 and 80 FPS average at 1080, so it's very playable and very smooth. Now, speaking of smooth, when I switched to Call of Duty Cold War just to see what a heavier title would do at 1080p, I averaged 73 FPS across 4 games, but this is where the problem started. This was such a buggy, stuttery mess that it wasn't playable. The frame times were all over the place, and it was awful. I was actually dying because of lag, and nobody would believe me. So this made me go back and try all the other games again, just because I wanted to see what's going on. All the other games ran fine. Just Cold War and this card don't mix. So I switched over to Warzone. Same thing. I have no idea why. It's just buggy and stuttery, and it's awful. We weren't exceeding the VRAM limit. We weren't even exceeding the 80% mark, so it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why this happened, but I couldn't get it to not happen. And it's possible it could be the other equipment in my rig, but I highly doubt it. Now, older games ran fine, of course, like Witcher, Killing Floor 2, Crysis 3, Black Ops 3, or even Kingdom Come Deliverance all ran just amazing. But I would expect that out of a GTX 1070 class card. And speaking of the 1070, that transitions us into what you can buy for $200 instead of this 6500 XT and still get a better experience. The GTX 1070 will offer you double the VRAM and a significantly more robust feature set with more than just 2 display outports. And on top of that, roughly 10 to 15% better performance on average, and it's cheaper. The 1070 can be found and be had used for less than $200 on eBay in the $175 to 200 and something-ish dollar price range, or if you're lucky, you can find one for about $150 if you're willing to deal with a blower cooler. Now, the RX 580 is roughly as fast as the 6500 XT and will cost roughly the same for the 8 gig variant used on eBay. And again, has a better feature set, the same performance, and more VRAM for the same money. So don't buy this 6500 XT. There are much better options out there. If for whatever reason you refuse to buy something used, this is, well, your only option unless you can find a new in-box GTX 1650, which, again, same cost if you can find it, with a better feature set and similar performance. I didn't want to trash on this card for all of 10 minutes. I didn't want that to be what this video was, but honestly, this card isn't a great option, and I'm glad I can put my 3080 back in my rig so that I can play my games without random crashes and general stuff happening. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Consider subscribing if you did. I upload every Wednesday. See you in the next one.